every time I post a Q&A, I get some variation of the question, hey, is this cycle good? Is this cycle optimal? Is this training split good? Is this diet good? Something along those lines. And every time, my answer is going to be, is it fucking working? But Justin, like, aren't there good cycles and bad cycles and good diets and bad diets? And yeah, 100%. But that all falls on a spectrum. End of the day, is it working? Are you getting fucking jacked? Are you getting lifestyle bodybuilder results? Because at the end of the day, I always say, there are no rules in bodybuilding. And I believe this specifically applies to lifestyle bodybuilders, especially the type of clientele I have. Typically military, first responders, business owners, blue collar, guys who have a lot of fucking shit going on. And I get it. You know, before I started coaching, I was a corrections officer. I worked 12-hour shifts. I was up at 3 a.m., you know, fucking 4 hours of sleep a night, and I did a bodybuilding prep on that. So I was not able to follow the same rules as other guys. I just simply couldn't. My life didn't allow it. And, you know, a lot of the advice and protocols out there are built for guys with nothing going on. And that's the hard truth that you have to accept. You know, you can go watch Jay Cutler videos all you want. I love Jay Cutler. But just remember, Jay Cutler got paid to be a bodybuilder. You don't. You operate on a completely... Now, when I say there are no rules in bodybuilding, the last thing I am doing is giving you permission to half-ass it. The compliance is the standard. That never changes. You have a plan, you execute it. You turn in your check-in photos, you fucking eat all your meals, you know, the whole 9 yards. That never changes. That is a rule. You have to be consistently doing whatever the right thing is to make progress. That is the truth. However, what I'm trying to tell you is a lot of the rules that the fitness industry has handed you, you know, that you need your 8 hours of sleep. You need these compounds in this specific order. You know, you need to be eating exactly this long before your fucking workout. Whatever it may be. Whatever the studies are saying at the moment. What happens when those are rules you cannot physically follow? Oh, you need to take Primo. Well, I can't get my hands on Primo, or I don't tolerate Primo. You need to be able to get 8 hours of sleep a night to grow. Yeah, sure, it would be better. But my work only let me get 4. So what do I do? What do I do? And, you know, the fact that a lot of you guys have jobs like this and are still trying to build incredible physiques, you know, maybe not there yet or not even on the way there yet, but you have the idea, you have the vision set out. The fact that you're attempting that means it's not a work ethic problem. It's simply an application problem. You know, it's not about laziness and not wanting to do it. It's about simply learning how to apply yourself and knowing what are my rules. And as I said, a lot of the rules out there are for guys with fucking nothing going on. You do have something going on, and despite that, you are still trying to build a physique. So what that means is not that you need lower standards. It means you need different execution. The plan needs to bend to your life, but the execution still needs to be non-negotiable. You'll hear me use that word over and over. Too bad. It's the truth. And I had this same conversation with probably 100 different fucking guys, face to face, and probably thousands in the DMs at this point. You know, guy wants to get serious, and then starts listing off all the reasons he can't. You know, my work, my kids, my shift, night shift, hours. You know, my work environment, whatever it may be. And they always look at me like they're almost expecting me to be like, "Yeah, man, that's tough," but like I don't. Why? Not to sound like I'm special, but I fucking did it. You know, I was working a job. I'm sure some of you have it harder than me. Don't soft hands me here. But, you know, I was working a hard fucking job. It put a lot of stress on me physically, mentally, recovery-wise. Like, it was fucked. But I managed to do it anyways. How? Because I planned around my life. I didn't plan around some fucking fitness influencer's life. I didn't plan around some pro bodybuilder's life. I took the principles and said, hey, I'm going to apply this to me. You know? Because generally, what happens to these guys is they'll try to do something they saw online. Oh, fucking 6 days a week, high volume split. They'll try to do that while working 12 to 16 hour shifts, and they'll fucking fail miserably. They will fail absolutely miserably. They'll crash and burn, and then they just like stop doing it because they think they're a failure. No, that's not a like consistency failure. That's a planning failure. I had a great example of this with one of my newer clients, and you can call it a coaching failure on my part. Because, I put him on a plan. I knew he was on like an internship where he was living in a hotel. I lived in a hotel when I first started bodybuilding. I was activated with the National Guard, and, that was what I was doing. And it was like a Marriott Residence Inn, so I had like a full kitchen and everything. And, that's all he told me. So I gave him his meal plan. And he's like, dude, I fucked up like so often on the meal plan. I like wasn't able to prep all my meals in time. So I just ate, shit at work. And I'm like, hold on, why were you not able to prep your meals in time? And he sends me a picture. And it's like, this is all I have. And it's a fucking crock pot. And that's it. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, that makes fucking sense that you weren't able to cook 2 different types of meats, 2 different types of carbs. So like, yeah, bro, that makes sense. So what did we do? We went back in there and made him a plan where he could essentially prep all of his food that needed to be cooked in one go. I said, hey, buy a cheap-ass rice cooker. We cook our chicken in the crock pot. We cook our rice at the same time. Rest of the meals are going to be, you can make them in the microwave, or they don't even need to be cooked at all. Easy. That is not a consistency failure. That is not an effort failure. That is simply a lack of planning. Based on, maybe I wasn't given the full story, but hey, coaching failure on my part. That's what a lot of guys are doing to themselves. They're setting expectations that they cannot physically fulfill, And so, when I was in this situation, I had to build my plan around my life. 3-hour eating windows were not going to work for me. That's not when my breaks were timed out, unless I wanted to eat my meals ice cold, which, fair enough, I could have. But, I wanted to eat my meals hot. So I wasn't able to do that. I had to plan my meals for the time that I had. And I still got in 5 to 6 meals every day. I built my meal plan around the time I had available. And, how much effort I could genuinely put in. So guess what? I would bring 3 meals to work every day. They were all the same fucking meal. Why? Because at the end of the day, I didn't really care about variety. I cared about results. I couldn't have both. That's what I'm trying to say. My life did not allow me to have variety and results. So I picked results. It's that simple, guys. Same thing with training. I knew I wasn't going to be able to train 5-6 days a week. I would train 3 to 4 days a week because my sleep sucked. And my fucking cortisol was spiked all day because it was just me sitting there watching 64 grown-ass felons who could pop off at any moment, even on a calm day. You got this background stress. If you've ever done the job, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I wasn't going to fucking run the 6-day-a-week Jay Cutler high-volume split. It just wasn't going to work for me. So I ran what did. It's that simple. It's not a consistency issue if you don't have a plan that you can be consistent with. Like, genuinely, I've had guys on night shift. I have guys on deployment currently. I have guys with however bad you think your job is, one of my clients is doing something fucking worse right now, And yeah, all their meal plans, all their training plans, all their PED plans are different. But you know what is not different if they are succeeding? The execution of said plan. And, a lot of guys in these fields, it's like they have this aversion to rigidity. Meanwhile, that's what their whole fucking job and life centers around. But they think their physique and, the results that they're going to get are somehow different and independent from that. It's not that they want variety and freedom. They just don't want to have to make a fucking decision. When I say like accountability and stuff like that, I don't mean babysitting. You know, guys like this don't need to be babysat. I'm not texting my fucking clients every day, hey buddy, did you eat your meals? No, when I say, accountability, I'm talking about you turn in your check-ins, you turn in your weight, you turn in your check-in forms, you execute your meal plan, you execute your training plan, you execute your cardio, and you give that to me at the end of the week, and I make decisions for you. I look at your physique and I go, here's what's working, here's what's not. This clearly is fucked, let's change it. And you don't make decisions. Because I'll tell you what, the last thing I wanted to do when I got off of a 12 was like think about what I had to eat and had to cook. No, I wanted to look on a piece of paper or a Google fucking PDF and go, you know what? I know exactly what I'm going to eat today. I don't need to calculate the macros. This is what it says, so this is what I'm fucking eating. When your life is just already like all consumed by fucking stress from jobs like this and, trying to be a lifestyle bodybuilder at the same time, every extra decision is just a failing point waiting to happen. Every time. Now, where no rules in lifestyle bodybuilding really shines and really applies is with fucking compounds, with the PEDs. I assume if you guys follow me, you're probably enhanced or thinking about it. Oh my fucking God, the amount of fucking rules I see get thrown out there. You can't take this and this together. Those compounds don't stack. This compound's bad. This compound's good. You can only run 500 milligrams a test or your heart's going to explode. I'm going to tell you guys right now, most of that is generic bullshit that does not fucking apply to you. In the slightest. Why? Because these people don't have data on you. The only people that are going to have data on you are you and the people you share it with. Your coach, your doctor, your fucking TRT clinic, whoever. These talking heads on Instagram, so hey, myself included sometimes, not excluding myself from that, they're not giving you PED protocols that make sense for you. They're just telling you what they've read or maybe seen in themselves. But most of them, it's guys who read fucking studies and treat it as fact. My framework for growth with PEDs is very fucking simple. Got 3 pillars that I abide by when designing client cycles. And, well, I don't really design my own cycles anymore, but when I did. Number 1, are you seeing the growth you want and is it worth it? Like, are you sticking a needle in your ass every day to see results or not see results? If you're seeing results, we're probably in the right fucking spot. Pillar number 2, and people always fucking skip over this, keep quality of life intact. What do I mean by that? Not have emotional dysregulation, not feel like shit all the time. When you're working, say fucking corrections, law enforcement, any of these, one bad emotional decision can literally cost you a lawsuit, criminal charges, getting fired. Like, you have to be on point. So a lot of people just say, oh, take EQ, take trend, take whatever. And it's like, have you factored in like the mental situation that a lot of these guys in these careers already have going on and cannot make any worse? So quality of life has got to stay intact. And number 3 is we need to keep blood work at a place where it could be cleaned up in one health phase. If you're having to take 6-month fucking health phases, you're doing something wrong. If you're causing permanent damage, you're doing something wrong. So you apply those 3 fucking pillars, and you're going to have a productive cycle. It doesn't matter what compound you run. It's going to be productive. If all those 3 things are true, that's a good cycle. I don't care what your favorite fitness influencer says. I don't care what Dr. So-and-so bodybuilding MD says. If those 3 conditions are met, that's a good cycle. And the firsthand experience, the individual response level, that's what really makes or breaks. I've ran EQ I hated it. I felt terrible and anxious all the time. I have clients that run EQ and they say, wow, I've never felt better in my fucking life. You know, I've had clients that grow on dosages that I would consider a waste of time for myself because I know I'm not going to grow on them. I've had clients who need way more than I would need to grow. Doesn't matter. There is no fucking, you cannot cross this line if you don't step on stage. No. You need to do whatever you need to do to get the fucking results you want while keeping those 3 pillars intact. That's the bottom line. And generally, from what I've seen, and as I said, not a hard rule, the gram total a week threshold is where people generally get the bodybuilder-like results that they want, or at least start to get them. If you're growing on less than that and you're well on your way to looking like a fucking bodybuilder, hey, you don't need more. That's fine. Cool. If you're taking a gram and you're still not seeing the results you want and your diet is locked in, your training's locked in, cardio's locked in, sleep's as locked in as it's going to get, fuck it. Who says you can't take a 1.5 grams? 2 grams. I've done it. I've taken 3 grams. Still kicking. Blood work looks great. No permanent damage so far. Fingers crossed. I don't really run cycles like that anymore. I think it's a little overkill, but you get the point. These fucking thresholds that people set, they're a barrier to fucking progress for most of you. I want to be straight with you guys. Most of the clients I take on, they're not totally lost, you know? These aren't guys who have never set foot in a gym and are 40% body fat for the most part. You know, these are guys who have been lifting for years, sometimes their whole life. Guys who have been eating clean, guys who are most of the time already on gear. I mean, I've helped a couple people with their first cycles. Most people that come to me have already been playing around with gear for a while. They always ask the same question. They're like, why am I not further along? And it's very simple. There are no set rules in bodybuilding. You have to make rules for yourself. And what a lot of these guys do is make rules and make decisions for themselves based off of emotion, based off of whatever is trending on Instagram right now, not fucking data. That is the only thing you should be making decisions based off of. Too many guys are making emotional decisions, you know, cutting their bulks too short because, oh, my abs are a little blurry. Cutting their fucking cuts too short because, oh, I lost a little bit of strength and size. No, you were just fat to begin with. You were high body fat, and that's the only reason you were strong. If you're actually strong, you won't lose much strength on a cut. You know, you're just a leverage abuser. But yeah, like this is the situation a lot of guys find them in. I've been in it a million times. That's why I have a fucking coach. I would have called my bulk probably 2 months before I did if I didn't have someone pushing me to keep going, saying, nope, we can still squeeze more tissue out of you. And guess what? Now that I'm cutting down, I'm like 40 pounds down. I am thankful for it. I'm looking at how much progress I've made, and I'm like, I definitely wouldn't have done that on my own. It just wouldn't have fucking happened. Why? Because I would have made emotion-based decisions and not data-based decisions. I would have saw that I had lost some leg separation and wanted to jump off a cliff. You know, I'm sure plenty of you guys have have experienced that. But that was like my first couple years of bodybuilding. I didn't take check-in photos. I didn't like weigh myself consistently. I didn't give myself any data to work with. I didn't have a meal plan. I didn't have any hard set data points from which I could expand on and make decisions in either direction. I just would change my cycle with what sounded good at the moment and change my diet with like whatever new fucking trend I was on. You know, I've done a lot of different styles of dieting, guys, and not a lot of them were meant for me, you know? But this is what happens when you're making decisions entirely based off of emotion and feeling, you know? You can't be intuitive with this shit when you never had a baseline to begin with. Now I can. I know, okay, relative to what I was eating this week, I should probably drop carbs by about this much. All right, that makes sense. You know, I can make intuitive decisions because I have data, because they're actually based off of something. They're not fucking fairy dust. And because of this, like I have guys making, as I said, on progress on fucking deployment right now. Why? We worked together for like 8 months before he deployed. We have hard data. We know what works for him. All right, now we're in a different environment. Food situation's different. Training situation's different. Sleep situation's different. All right, we have a baseline to go off of. Plan's not going to be perfect, but we're going to get it done. And that client has put on like 30 pounds on deployment, kept it as tight as possible, eating fucking galley food, and has put on some serious fucking muscle. That's what no rules in bodybuilding really means. It means the ideal situation isn't always going to be there, and you can progress regardless. But that doesn't come from going wildly off plan and going, oh, well, this is the way things are. It comes from having unwavering execution of the plan, but making the plan fit the current situation. Anyways, guys, to wrap this up, all I'm really trying to say is, you need to have a plan. Point blank. Once you have a plan, you need a plan that fits your life. The plan that fits Joe fitness influencer or the guy who works in a fucking cubicle does not fit the first responder. It does not fit the military guy. It does not fit the guy running a business and managing fucking 50 employees. It doesn't fucking work. Because it's just such a completely different circumstances. So the plan needs to adapt to fit your life. What needs to never change is the execution of said plan. Doesn't matter if your 6 meals a day are all nice, super well prepped meals, or if you're eating 6 fucking tuna sandwiches a day. The execution stays the same. Point blank. So, a lot of you guys are probably in this same situation I was in for years, situation a lot of my clients are in, and you still want to get huge. You want bodybuilder level size. That's it. Point blank. You have a goal. You're going to reach it. You just don't know fucking how. If that's you, shoot me a fucking message on Instagram. Let's get you set up with a fucking plan.